Water. It is what made the world we live in, and all that is in it we cherish. But it may soon take everything from us.
The Arctic sea ice is at its lowest levels on record. In northern Siberia, it hit 100.
So I like the opening score. It's very serene, which goes perfectly along with the visuals of the ocean and the water, which is what one generally thinks about, or what the effect usually is when people are interacting with water, close to water. So I think that emotion is definitely brought out by the score. I like the visual elements as well of the drone shot. Again, going back to the opening, sort of does well to encapsulate the magnitude and majesty of the sort of body of water. I like that the choice to go with a narrator in addition to a talking head subject does well to sort of adequately inform the viewer of the subject matter, especially because environmental topics can at times be very very information heavy rather, and thus making it difficult for the viewer to follow along. So the narrator helps sort of guide the viewer through understanding the topic. I also like how the documentary takes you through the different socioeconomic groups and how they are affected by climate change. I think that is very important because it shows that these issues aren't just sort of academic discussions, but that they affect all people groups, and what that effect sort of looks like on both sides of the spectrum.
The nature footage was very well done, from Miami to India to Bangladesh. What set this film apart for me were the incredible interviews of those so passionate about fighting climate change. I appreciated the comments by the experts who are very knowledgeable about this vast problem. The narrator's voice was excellent, so elegant and impassioned. The build of the music's intensity was also perfect.
This is just really tragic to learn about how people with the smallest climate footprint are affected the worst by climate change because they can't escape the situations like the rich can, and just showing us how the rich are able to escape the problems that they create and the poor are not. Climate change feels so distant, and I think this really brought it to our attention that it is something to worry about now and not something just to ignore and push to the back of our minds. This documentary, I loved the fact that it went worldwide. We saw climate change affecting America, we saw it affecting India, Bangladesh, South Florida, and we heard from people in all of these situations, which I thought was really cool, and really, made us aware of the, climate change is global, it is affecting everyone, and it will affect everyone in the future.
It's an excellent job at exploring the topic of climate change, how it behaves interchangeably with the kind of cultural and economic inequalities that plague us. Who will be affected at the end of the day is everyone, which, as repeatedly stated throughout. But there are obviously levels of impact that we see occurring over time due to someone's economic and financial status. The breakdowns here given globally show, again, re-emphasize why this is a global issue, and the experts and the everyday people that we get to hear from this all have a consensus, regardless of their education or cultural background, that this is something we need to act on immediately. And I think that this doc does a great job at giving us that sense of urgency to act now.
Very well shot with absolutely stunning direction and cinematography, especially we see when we move from one, also the graphics and the B-rolls moving from Florida to India and vice versa. And I think the concept was really interesting. So we see how tides are changing in many parts of the world, be it USA, Asia, South America. And we see how all this is mainly due to humankind and all the things that humans are doing on a daily basis, be it building cars or fast food chains or electricity, or nuclear, like energy, all comes together and wastelands and accumulates and brings the world into these climate crisis that we're living nowadays. And we see all these population that, as part of the climate change, the tides are rising. So all these population, they keep getting flowed every year with more and more water that shouldn't be there. And we also see how politicians and governments don't really care. They just think about making new houses for people with money, whereas people who have been living there for decades and centuries, they are nearly forced to go away because they have the problem with the nature and also the problem with the government raising prices, building new places, etc., etc. Especially when we see the comparison in the interview, they say there's going to be 22 bars, and the man says, none of us can even afford to go to one of them. Imagine 22. I think it was a very powerful line.
The impacts of rising water levels, and not just on the environment, but also on people. And it takes a really interesting look at the social aspects as well. Really interesting.